Hello fellow sim racers. Over the last couple of months, every conversation I've had with another sim racer has eventually moved on to the subject of Automobilista 2, and quite specifically, Reiza's use of the Madness engine for the new title. So after countless hours of circular conversations, I guess these are my thoughts about AMS 2 set to some Project Cars 2 footage because, well, you know why. Automobilista was one of those sims that just seemed to get all of the important stuff right. The driving experience was excellent, the force feedback was immersive, and the content was fresh, interesting, and generally very well put together. But there's no escaping the fact that it's very much starting to look its age. DirectX 9 first appeared in 2002 and is, mathematically speaking, 3 DXs old. AMS have built a small but loyal fanbase, and the hype surrounding the follow-up has been pretty intense over the last couple of years. Most expected the title to follow in the footsteps of its predecessor by making some use of some iteration of the ISI engine, but when AMS2 was officially announced in late May, it was Slightly Mad Studios' Madness engine that was revealed to be under the hood. I think it's fair to say that the community has a lot of goodwill towards Reiza and the Automobilista name. However, their relationship with SMS and Project Cars is, well, it's complicated. So I've been going back to take a look at Project Cars 2 through the lens of the new AMS title to try and get a flavour of what the offspring of these two unlikely bedfellows may look like. And you know what? I think it's going to work out. On the face of it, by adopting the Madness engine, Reiza have been able to address the few real shortcomings of Automobilista by utilising the strengths of SMS's engine. In terms of visuals and environmental conditions, Project Cars 2 was pretty much unrivaled on release in the PC sim racing market. Furthermore, native VR support is very good. In fact, it's excellent by sim racing standards. But on balance, it has to be said that a big part of AMS's success weighed upon the excellent physics and force feedback, and at least some of that should probably be attributed to the ISI engine. So then, what can we expect in this department from AMS2 based on our experiences of the Project Cars games? First up, it's worth remembering that the convoluted history of SMS does lead back to Simbin and the ISI engine, which they had licensed for the GTR series and Race 07. And my understanding is that at least the very early iterations of the Madness engine did utilise some ISI code as well. So ultimately, both AMS and the Project Cars games do share some common DNA. Moreover, Renato has stated on several occasions that he believed that the feel of the title will be very similar to Automobilista, and I'm willing to take the man at his word. Circling back to Project Cars, I get the impression that fundamentally the engine's sound, but where things start to get a bit wobbly with those games is the content. When you find a great car and track combination in PC2, for example, it drives beautifully. Unfortunately, those can be pretty hard to find. Whether that's because of default setups that seem to have been generated at random, or car behaviour that bears no relation to the real thing. On top of that, force feedback is incredibly inconsistent from car to car, which just compounds the problem further. But that all being said, there are cars that feel fantastic, and for me, those driving experiences have the possibility to rival whatever your pet sim is. But they are few and far between. So then the problem's consistency. And I suppose with the scale of Project Cars and the mammoth task of creating all that content, it's probably not that surprising that some of it feels quite rushed. And for the record, that's something I also think about the stock and DLC content for Assetto Corsa as well. The good news is that this is an area in which Reiza has absolutely excelled in the past, and with a much smaller inventory, often comprised of single-make series, the quality and consistency of the content in AMS2 isn't something I'm worried about. For me, force feedback is a much bigger concern. I was a big fan of the feel of AMS, while for the most part I could never really get Project Cars 2 to feel quite how I wanted. Now, there is a lot of complexity to how all of this works, and without knowing what's going on under the hood, it's all going to be idle speculation, particularly with reference to what, if any, impact Reiza can have on this aspect. So for now, this remains the big unknown for me. Another area that strikes me as a potential weakness is sound. Both PC2 and AMS were pretty average in this department, though quite different. For me, Project Cars 2 usually sounded pretty pleasant internally, but often lacked a lot of the nuance and ancillary sounds that are characteristic of real-world racing cars. Again, this feels like the content itself is probably the problem rather than the underlying engine. And externally, the story's pretty much the same, save for the replay cameras, which were, frankly, pretty atrocious. In their recent update video, Reiza featured a side-by-side comparison of the Ultima GTR in AMS and AMS2, and it has to be said that the sound in the new title does appear to be a bit better. But this is one external camera angle of one car, so it's a bit early to start drawing any conclusions. However, Reiza have spoken openly about how they dedicated more resource to sound design, and particularly with reference to capturing real audio samples, so all of the signs are positive. So far, I've only really touched upon the experience of driving a car and how it looks and sounds. But allegedly, we're all here to race. Project Cars 2's multiplayer system was a real strength of the platform, and this bodes well for AMS 2. Though I do think it's fair to say that the biggest issue with Automobilista multiplayer was actually finding people to race against. Unless you're a member of a league or club, the lobbies were pretty empty. When it comes to single player though, the AI in AMS were a real surprise to me, providing a fun and consistent racing experience throughout the various series. Project Cars 2, however, is a bit lacking in the AI department, and as someone that utilises the AI on a day-to-day basis for making videos, I'm very keen to see how this works out for AMS 2. Something that I've not seen a lot of chatter about is modding support. AMS had a pretty healthy modding community, but the shift to the Madness engine pretty much rules this out, save for skins. For me, this is a big shame. With Kunos having shifted their focus, and the complexity of modding for RF2, AMS2 had the potential to be the next big modding platform. Sadly though, it looks like this won't be the case. So to start to draw things to a close, I guess you could summarise my position on AMS2 as pretty optimistic. There's very little of note that's overly concerning, and those areas with remaining question marks should start to get some answers before the slated December release. The other piece of the puzzle, and it's not something that I'm going to speculate about here, is what, if anything, the licensing of the Madness engine to a competitor in the sim racing space might mean for Project Cars 3. Anyway, as for AMS 2, I guess all that's left to do is sit and wait for the inevitable pre-order. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, it would be great if you could hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you can see more content like this in the future. So all that's left to say is goodbye, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.